think transition from going from a small surfboard to a paddleboard will seem cumbersome at first because, one, you're getting back on a longer board. But the idea that I have kind of been working on is to make these paddleboards, these larger paddleboards, ride like a shortboard. Now, it's been a long process, but as you can see, some of these boards are now getting into the size where they're actually the normal size in the lineup lengthwise. They just look different. They're a little bit wider, a lot thicker, but that's all due to the fact that you're standing up, not laying down. That's what I would think. Most, from my aspect of what I've been learning, is that men have a harder time with this because of egos. Women, it's all about fun. And the thing of falling off every once in a while is kind of detrimental to a man's ego. For a woman, well, I just get wet, crawl back on the board and stand up again. But you don't need anything so long that it prevents you from having fun. And the longer the board, even like when you learned how to surf using a longboard, getting into the wave is maybe not the issue. It's as soon as you catch the wave, now you got this long piece of fiberglass in front of you. Well, the same thing with a paddleboard. You want that thing small enough to be able to turn and then start being able to drive down the line, do cutbacks off the lips and everything. The key in functioning these boards or performing with these boards is paddle. And that paddle becomes like a rudder. And you can turn these boards on a dime. Just look in the magazines and you see what kids are doing on these, and it kind of blows you away. The only thing you're not doing is rollers. But it's only 2013, so right. Give it till next year. Typically, we all start surfing on a longboard. And if you notice the difference, there's no difference in length. The difference that we do have is width and flotation. And the reason we have the differences like that is we lay on a paddleboard in a prone position. Our center of gravity is lower. The flotation of the water itself keeps us buoyant. But on a paddleboard, we have to stand up on it all the time. Plus, two, our balance, center of gravity is all different. So we have to kind of compensate for that. The problem that ends up happening is, just like when we're surfing on a longboard in the beginning, is we start wanting to perform on our longboards or perform our surfing, and we end up gravitating towards a much shorter board. At that point, that's where I started coming in saying, I don't believe anybody needs to be starting on a paddleboard anything longer than 9'6". If you're falling off all the time, well, just keep standing up. So from this standpoint, if it was like say an issue that you wanted to surf a little bit, but you wanted to paddle more, I would highly recommend a longer board, because the priority is, I just want to go paddling, hang out with the dolphins and all that. But if you really want to get going and start trying to enjoy the waves, then it would be to go into a smaller board, which I'll show you those. Now this is the concept that I just started working on this past year. And what this board does is it takes into consideration the comfort of a longer board, the performance of a shorter board, and the stability in which part of my designs tend to be more, let's say what I'm designing everything around, which is a board being stable but still having the ability to be able to respond and perform at the level that everybody wants to do as a surfer. Now, this concept's already being explored on surfboards. I think there's a guy out of Australia, I believe it is, that started this. But basically what you're doing is you're taking a 9-foot board or a 9'6" board, and you're cutting off 6 to 8 inches off the tail, 6 to 8 inches off the nose. It's not any use, we don't need it. So we don't even worry about factoring it into the design. But what we're doing is we're using all the parallel lines for our yaw, so we basically can paddle straight. We're getting the rocker that we want on a short board, and then we just kind of break up the tail a little bit so it's not so wide like some of the boards that are being put out now, that the tail is fine being wide as long as you're going straight. I don't go straight. I go up, I go down, I do turns. Cool. So I figured that this was worth exploring. Now this was my first one that I did, and I just took it out the other day, and it exceeded my expectations on catching waves, stability, and turning. I can even do tail slides on this thing, and it's like this is my first one. So it took me years to come to these designs, because the first one worked, but I've gotten that refined, and then suddenly this one right out of the starting gate, I got something new. And I think within the next probably 6 months to a year, we'll start seeing this in our stand-up paddleboard, because I'm looking at going down to about a 7.4.
Very nice.
So,
I like it.
let's take a look at this blue one. This one, I've been working on getting this design, and if you notice, I'm not sure what your 5.2 fish looks like, but to a certain degree, this has some principles like a little fish. All I did was kind of blow it out. At least what I was thinking was a fish to me. Now, the downside of a board this small with very little nose and the narrower tail is in any conditions, choppy conditions, which on the East Coast we tend to have those a little bit more than we like, it's unstable. And the only reason it's unstable is you don't have the width at the fore and the aft to give you that extra stability when you're in conditions that are constantly like this. But on a glassy day, it's like I feel like I could go smaller.
Oh,
but because we don't have those, it's kind of like a go-to all-around board would more or less fall into a category like this. Now the only thing I don't like about this one, the flame board, is the fact that when I made the blue board, I liked it better than I did the flame. This board is incredibly stable in all kinds of choppy conditions, and you're still able to get the performance that you want out of a shorter board and not have that uncomfortable, I gotta stand on a Bosu ball in the middle of the ocean. And but other than that, it's kind of like the board that when I try to bring people to a short board, I put them on that so that they can get over that stigma that I can't go under 8 feet, I can't go under 9 feet. I say get on a 7-8 and just stand up. And as soon as you do, you go, oh my gosh, I can stand on this thing. And then it's a matter of just developing the, like I say, the techniques in order to, start utilizing the shortness of the board.
Sounds great. I really like what I see.
Okay.
How long would it take for me to get a board from you?
The boards I have on stock, I'd say 7 to 8 weeks. But if you want something custom, meaning particular colors, particular shape, usually that's about an 8 to 12 week turnaround time.
Okay. What all is included with the board?
Custom fins, the track top, color, and the shape.
What about the paddle?
Oh, I knew that was coming. No, but I can refer you to a couple of paddle companies that I do recommend because I've experimented with a number of paddles, and the one that I particularly use, I highly recommend. It's not an inexpensive paddle, but it does, I'd say, perform at a level that I think that my boards perform. So if you're going to get the best, you might as well get a great paddle.
All right, sounds good.